Happy Friday, everyone. I hope you're having a great night. It is Friday, April 4th at 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time. Just like the last two Fridays, I'm going to be giving a weekly update on what has been happening. Today is going to be a little bit different. I'm going to actually share some of my backstory with everyone and explaining how my children ended up in Daytona, Florida from Lake County, Illinois, and how I ended up down here as well. But first, I want to give a shout out to Francine Lucas with the company Small Business Program Development in Orange City. I attended her, I know it's backwards, I attended her workshop on grant writing today. And why that's very important is I started two nonprofits. One is dedicated to Justice for the Serlick children, which is dedicated to my 4 children and the last 5 years and them being victims of child trafficking in Illinois, and then family court corruption. So I got a wealth of information from Francine today on all the different abilities I have to get funding for my nonprofit and pull my own salary, to raise awareness to this, to be an advocate for other domestic violence victims, do public speaking across the nation to raise awareness to my children and my situation, as well as the goal is to get to Washington, D.C. and hopefully get some additional federal bills going in regards to making these elected officials accountable for what they're doing to U.S. children and U.S. families. So this workshop was amazing. I have access to Department of Justice grants. I have access to Women's Violence in Justice, Department of Justice grants. I have access to Department of Human Services grants. I had no idea all of this was available to me. So Small Business Development Program, Florida Regional Office, Francine Lucas and her husband were just phenomenal today. It included lunch. I networked with a lot of other ladies and nonprofits. Had a plastic folder for me to keep my stuff in, and I love being organized, so it was just wonderful. Definitely check out Francine Lucas's workshop next time she holds one. The reason I started a nonprofit dedicated to my 4 children is before November of last year, I thought my story was unique. I thought I was alone in this crazy story. I had no clue that my story was happening all over the nation. Pete was at a Chamber of Commerce event last November and met a lady named Karen Tosoni here in Florida. And Karen is a board member of a nonprofit called After Awareness, and it is to raise awareness to legal/judicial abuse in our system. And that is exactly what I'm experiencing. So he got her business card. I went on her website. I started reading the After Awareness website, and that's afterawareness.org, and realizing that that is exactly what my children and I have been experiencing for 5 years straight between Illinois Circuit 19 Court in Lake County, Illinois, and Florida Circuit 7 Court in Volusia, St. Johns County. It covers 4 counties, but Florida Circuit 7. So this corruption and legal abuse/judicial abuse has followed me and the children from Illinois to Florida, because there's one key player involved in my whole situation, and that is Michael G. Nurheim. So that's what makes my situation a little bit more unique, is there is actually someone that is behind the scenes calling the shots down here in my case. So I wanted to let you guys know all of these different people I have come across since I first started networking in November of 2024. So Pete and I went to a charity event that Karen Tosoni hosted for her After Awareness nonprofit. And at that charity event in 2024, I had a complete emotional slap to the face. Everyone at that charity event that recognizes me will absolutely say that I had an emotional shutdown, really, as I'm hearing other people's stories that are identical to mine, and I was just sitting there sobbing in a room of strangers. Family after family coming up to speak at this event, and their stories were almost identical to me. At that event, I got linked up with Dana H. I'm not even going to try to say her last name. I don't want to butcher it. But she is the founder of Survivor Center. She is an author and advocate, and her website is survivorcenter.org. She has almost a similar story to mine with her son out of state. And now, because of her situation, she has formed a nonprofit called Survivor Center for advocating for domestic violence victims. And then after I met Dana, Dee Werblun came up to speak, and Dee is local to Daytona as well. So Dana is local to Daytona area, more Central Florida, but she's always in this area as well. And then Dee Werblun is local to Daytona, Ormond Beach. So Dee is the owner of Beachside Bar, Deck, and Grill in Ormond Beach. And she has a website called medicallykidnapped.com. So as in medical, medicallykidnapped.com. And you can find her story on her website as well as on Facebook. And that is D. Riley Lonnie Story on Facebook. So her situation is very similar to mine, but using our medical system to kidnap children instead. Her grandchildren went into the hospital and disappeared. They were literally medically kidnapped from the hospital. And she's been battling our lovely Florida Circuit 7 for years now and had to get an out-of-state attorney involved because of the collusion and corruption. So I highly recommend you check out her website, medicallykidnapped.com, read her story, and you'll see some similarities with my story and hers. Have I had the Ombudsman Office investigate your situation? No. So I am, now that I've been getting very public and loud about my story, anyone that you think that I should be connected to, please send me a direct message, because I'm not going to be able to read the scrolling. But definitely send me a direct message or send me an email at justicefortheserlickchildren@gmail.com, and I will absolutely follow up with any of your recommendations to network, because I'm only getting louder by the day. Then across this nation, I'm going to give some shout outs to some people. I'm not going to say women because there's a man involved in my networking. Across the nation, we've got Maralee McLean. She is an author and advocate, and her websites are momsfightback.org. And then her other website is MaraleeMcLean.com. She's published books. You can find her books on Amazon. You can also find Dana's books on Amazon. I'm going to post all of this in my YouTube description so you have access to the names and the links. So if you want to take a look at these other parents I'm coming across as I start networking more, I will absolutely be giving other people resources. So Maralee McLean, I actually had a consult with her, and I heard her story, she heard mine, and her immediate response was, you need to get the media involved. You got to get loud, you got to get the media involved. So that's what I'm doing, because that's what Maralee McLean suggested I do. She actually has laws named after her daughter now because of the changes she wanted to see in domestic violence in family court. So definitely check out MaraleeMcLean.com and MomsFightBack.com, and there's also a Facebook group for Moms Fight Back. Then we've got, and this woman is actually pretty well known across the nation, Tina Swithin, and she is the author and advocate for One Mom's Battle. She has published books on this. She has a Facebook group in every single state and it's OMB, so Oscar, Mike, Bravo, and then each state. So like I'm in one OMB, Florida, and there's an OMB, Illinois. So definitely check out One Mom's Battle and then search the Facebook groups and you can find one for your state, I'm sure. And then next we have Marianne Petrie. She is an author and podcaster of Slam the Gavel. Her website is dismantlingfamilycourtcorruption.com. I listen to her podcast all the time. I know there's other women in my group of Circuit 7 women that also have not only listened to her podcast, but have also been guests on her podcast. So she's published books as well. And then we have Dr. Dupree, PhD. This is a man, and his website is hopeinthedarkness.info. And his podcast is the Flying Monkey Podcast. And it covers parental alienation, and it covers narcissism and the flying monkey syndrome. That is a psychological term that the narcissists seek out other people to do the dirty work for them and spread the lies amongst everyone involved in the situation and alienate people. So Dr. Dupree, definitely check out hopeinthedarkness.info. And something he has on his website that really resonated with me that I have been repeating a lot lately is parental alienation is domestic abuse by proxy. So let's think about that. Domestic abuse by proxy. It's psychological abuse. It's emotional abuse. It is turning the children against the other biological parent. It is outright lies to the children. It is many different types of abuse, if not in a way physical, because some of these children will attempt suicide or will commit suicide because they are being told the other parent doesn't want them or gave them up for adoption, etc. And then that psychological harm on these children, I've come across stories where these kids are committing suicide because of what one parent is saying about the other. And that is absolutely disturbing. And then finally, and of course you can find a lot more of these groups on Facebook, but the one that sticks out the most for me is a nonprofit on Facebook in the groups called Stolen Children by CPS. And they are based out of California. They just recently became a nonprofit and then transitioned their Facebook to a different Facebook page. But on this group, you will see that there are families searching for their missing children, and there are adult children in this group trying to find their biological parents because they were stolen. What the actual term is called is state-sanctioned kidnapping or governmental kidnapping. And they will, I'm going to start my podcast soon, Cole. That's definitely in the works. By the end of April, my podcast will be up. So this state-sanctioned kidnapping or governmental kidnapping is a way for these for-profit private agencies in each of the states. In my Children Nice case, it was Camelot Care, based out of Rockford, Illinois, and they actually have a location here in Florida too. Imagine that. But these for-profit agencies pull children into the system from vulnerable situations, and then everybody makes money off of them. And then, horrifically, a lot of these children get sold, aka adopted. Their names get changed, and then they can never connect with their biological parents again. The biological parents can never find them. So this nonprofit based out of California is specifically for children that were yanked into the system, maybe were in the system for so long that they don't know who their biological parents are anymore, or they were sold to connected wealthy families, like in my oldest daughter's situation in Des Plaines, Illinois. And then adopted out, and then their names changed during the adoption process, and it's basically destroying families. So these are just a few. of the main groups or women that I have come across with very, very eerily similar stories to mine. So 6 months ago, I thought I was alone in this. I am no longer alone in this, guys. This is just to name a few. You can also go on Facebook and just simply search in the Facebook groups, family court corruption, or CPS corruption, or DCFS corruption, or DCF corruption, and you will find hundreds of Facebook groups dedicated to exactly what my story is. So this I put together. I will put all of these links and names up on the YouTube version of this video after I'm done with the live and I upload it. So you can go on that YouTube video and click on the links. I already have Dana's book. I purchased her book and she signed it for me. I will be getting Maralee McLean's books on Amazon and having her sign it. I'm going to be reaching out to Tina and having her sign it. Same with Marianne Petrie. All of these women are authors and podcasters. So my concept is because I have been networking with all these other people, all these other victims in the system that are quite a few steps ahead of where I'm at. So they are mentors of mine. It is I don't want to say relieving, but it is comforting to know that I'm not alone in this. As comforting as it possibly could be. So now we're going to get to giving you guys an update on my case. Now, I'm not going to give an update on the General Magistrate's 11 pages of lies and BS tonight because I want to go over something even more important. What the General Magistrate gave me was a smoking gun I've been waiting for. It is proof that there's collusion and corruption because a lot of what he said in that response to the hearing last week absolutely proves that there is a connection to the Serlicks because there is information, accusations in that 11 pages that is nowhere to be found in my Florida docket. So I would love to know where this General Magistrate Alexander Alvarez got some of that information because it's not in my docket at all, anywhere. So that is proof, more proof. I already had a pretty significant portion of proof, but even more proof that I can absolutely use and sue Stasia Warren of Florida Circuit 7, Sandra C. Upchurch of Florida Circuit 7, and now General Magistrate Alexander Alvarez of Florida Circuit 7. So they just keep digging their hole deeper for themselves, and they don't realize that I have been like 5 steps ahead of them the whole time building a much bigger Supreme Court case. So, before I give you the backstory of how my children ended up down here, I want to show you my progress docket because it tells a story in itself. This 5 pages tells a story in itself. This is my case against my ex-husband, Justin Serlick. I divorced him in June 2013. It is now April 2025, so we've been divorced for 12 years almost. But he has managed, with his mommy and stepdaddy's connections, to manipulate our judicial system that we were always taught since kindergarten to trust and to have faith in, that they are going to uphold our constitutional rights and the laws of our nation and the laws of each state. So their manipulation of the court system is only going to land everyone in jail in the end because I'm not stopping. I'm just going to get louder until I get all the way to DC. So I don't know why they keep burying themselves more, but they just keep getting me more evidence that this is completely corrupt. So this is the first page, and I know it's backwards, I'm sorry, but this is the first page of my docket progress. And it starts with DIN number 1, and the date is August 7th of 2023. I hired Mary Jane Nettles May of 2023. So we're talking June, July, August. We're talking 3 months until this poor excuse for an attorney finally actually opened my case in Florida Circuit 7. She had my $3,000 retainer in May of 2023, and my first DIN, docket identification number, is August 7th of 2023. And that is the civil cover sheet. And then same day petition, registration of foreign decree with request for enforcement. So we're talking about registering my Illinois court documents in Illinois family court so we can enforce those court documents and, you know, modify as necessary. So this has been in Florida Circuit 7 since August 7th of 2023. So here's page 1. This is quite literally me trying to gain access to my children, trying to talk to them on the phone, trying to have visitation with them, trying to see them, trying to hug them, trying to tell them I love them, trying to tell them that I've been down here since 2021, fighting for them. Ariana, Tommy, Bianca, Charlie, fighting for them, just trying to gain any access to them whatsoever. So here's page number 2. These are all docket information or identification numbers. This is all stuff in my case that's public knowledge. Here's page number 3. It's page number 4. And then the very bottom of page 4 and page 5. Whoops. Those two. Those are the actual court events. So as you can see, we've got four and a half, almost 5 pages of just docket identification numbers, giving an explanation, a date of what it is and what it's for, motion for petitioner, motion by petitioner, order denied, order denied, order denied. These are literally all motions of me trying to gain access to my kids, and then these judges slapping a denial on them immediately. And sometimes my motions have like 84 pages, like my emergency motions for custody to pick my children up because they need help now. 84 pages of evidence, and I get within an hour and a half a stamp of denial. Denied. There's no way Judge Stasia Warren and Sandra C. Upchurch are actually looking through these motions before the least they could do is have enough intelligence to wait 1 day before slapping a denial on it. No, you look at the timestamps. They're literally slapping a denial on it within an hour of me filing it, which means they're not even looking at it at all. There's no way they're reading through 84 pages in an hour. They don't even have enough intelligence to give it a day. The timestamps in itself tells a very telling story of what I'm accusing them of. But we've got all these pages of motions and denials and everything. And out of all these pages, we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 total court events since August of 2023. So that means that nobody gives a crap about my children. Nobody gives a crap about the fact that Justin, Mary, and Ira Serlick are withholding my children from me. People are being paid off to slap a denial on this within minutes of me filing it. Minutes, because, 60 minutes. So this docket DIN number 53 just tells a story in itself. Just looking at this, looking at how long I have been trying to see my 4 children here in Florida, and looking at how long my civil rights, my constitutional rights, and my human rights are being walked all over. Just like it don't even matter. But what I want to do now, guys, is I want to actually walk you through how we got to where we are now. And then tomorrow night I'll do another live and pick apart that 11 pages from General Magistrate Alexander Alvarez and then tomorrow night, after watching this and me explaining this, you tell me if there's corruption or not, because this tells a very, very big story. These documents right here. These are emails and court orders. So, how did we get to where we're at right now? 2020 pandemic flipped Chicagoland upside down. It was like an apocalypse in Chicago. The city was a ghost town for months. Nobody was walking the streets of Chicago for months. You couldn't go to the grocery store. No one was moving in or out of homes. We had an actual housing lockdown. We had curfews in place. I mean, it was utterly insane. But that is how things have happened the way they have, is quite literally because of the pandemic. If the pandemic did not happen, I would not be talking to you about this story right now. The pandemic is how they manipulated our court system the way they did. So in 2020, my lease was up the end of March 2020, March of 2020. So as I explained previously in my other videos, Justin stopped paying his portion of the rent. He was renting a home in the kids and I's house in Fox Lake, Illinois. We did not share the same room. I was on the upstairs. Justin was on the main floor. He was renting his portion of the house for half the rent of $750 a month. And in September 2019, he was told by Mary Serlick to stop paying his portion of the rent because his name wasn't on the lease. And this was how they were going to do their master plan. So when I was told to kill myself March 22nd of 2020 in Port Orange in Mary and Ira's house with Justin and Mary bent over me in front of my children, they had me in a full panic attack telling me to kill myself. No one wants me alive. Just kill myself, blah, 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 blah. I will never get their voices out of my head. That is its own day of trauma in itself in this whole saga. I took the kids that night. We went up to Jacksonville. The kids and I ultimately ended up staying for 2 weeks at the St. Augustine World Golf Holiday Inn. And then we booked it back up to Illinois, where I sought out domestic violence shelters in April of 2020. Still had housing freeze. I had my tax return and I had nowhere to move the kids and I into because we had a housing freeze in Chicagoland. Nobody was moving in, nobody was moving out. I could not sign a lease. It was near impossible to get a new home during the height of the pandemic in Chicago. So we got connected with a safe place in Waukegan, Zion area of Illinois. They put the kids and I up into a hotel. And then as the pandemic continued, those hotels would shut down and then they would shift us to another hotel and then that hotel. And so we were bouncing around from hotel to hotel from April all the way through the end of the summer. The kids and I did have an RV where we were staying kind of local, just trying to make the best of things in the RV to pretend like we were still camping because they were very big into Boy Scouts and Girl Scouts and they lost the resident camp. So I was just trying to keep some normalcy in their life. But at the same time we were in that RV, we also had a hotel where we could go take baths at, sleep in a normal bed if we wanted to. But they actually wanted to be in that RV. They did not want to go to the hotel. They wanted to be in the RV. So a safe place and the counselors at a safe place had us file police reports in regards to the abuse Justin was inflicting upon the kids and I. And then the kids went to the Gurney Child Advocacy Center, which at the time, the state attorney was Michael G. Nurheim. His name was on the building. Imagine that. So 2 weeks after the kids made their statements and the police reports were written up that Tommy told the investigator that Justin kicked him in the ribs 3 times and physically picked him up and threw him through his bedroom wall. Bianca told the investigators that Justin would grab her by her ankles and yank her to the hardwood floor every night and every morning and scream at her to clean the piss off of herself because she had epilepsy. And everybody knew that I was trying to solve her bedwetting issues. I was not secretive about that because she was actually in a case study with my psychologist, Dr. Golbin, who was developing a new device for children's bedwetting. So there's no secret that Bianca had bedwetting issues. All of my friends that followed my children and I in Chicagoland knew that we were trying to solve that. So it is actually in the police reports that these 2 children told the investigators that Justin was physically abusing them. And I have copies of that through Freedom of Information Act. Within 2 weeks, Illinois DCFS showed up at their daycare in Fox Lake, Kitty Cottage Daycare, and took them out of my custody with no court order, no ID showing me that they were, this woman, Jessica Lyman, was an employee of Illinois DCFS, no court order, no business card, no identification whatsoever. For all I knew, she was a friend of Mary Serlick and just taking my kids and saying she worked for Illinois DCFS. It wasn't until October 13th that we finally had a court date with Judge Christopher Morosin. And I quickly figured out that this was a plan for Justin and Mary Serlick to yank the kids down to Florida. It did not happen the way they planned, though. What happened instead is Illinois saw my children in a vulnerable situation with a mother that was homeless during a pandemic and didn't have any means to hire an attorney, and said, perfect. We're going to take these kids, we're going to throw them into the system, and we're going to child traffic them. And the proof of that is the fact that I lost any and all contact with my children. Their cell phones were taken away from them as of October 13th. And most importantly, when I told Judge Morosin that I was going to go to the media with what they did, I had a gag order slapped on me. If you do not know what a gag order is, please Google it. But it is a court order that states that a person or persons cannot discuss the details of a case with anyone outside of the courtroom. They are meant for high-profile criminal cases or something that has to do with national security, etc. They are not meant for family court, ever. It's a violation of our First Amendment. So gag orders are rarely used for that reason. It is a violation of our First Amendment. So that meant, as of October 13th, 2020, I could not even tell my own father about what just happened with my children. I couldn't go on the internet and tell the world what just happened to my children. I couldn't go to the local media in Chicago and tell them what happened to my children. And that was, yep, it is absolutely unlawful, and that's why I have a U.S. Supreme Court case, just for that alone. Just for the gag order alone, I have a U.S. Supreme Court case. Absolutely. So that gag order was actually in place until the last case ended, which was Ariana's case, December 28th of 2023. So even though all of us were down here in Florida, that gag order was still in place, but it didn't have jurisdiction down here in Florida. But there were other things I needed to work out before I could start being loud with my story. So let's fast forward a year later to August of 2021. Kids disappear from my life. I have no contact with them. I have absolutely no idea where they're at. I knew that Bianca and Charlie were in one foster home. I knew that Ariana was in a wealthy foster home in Des Plaines. And I knew that Tommy was in group homes all over the state of Illinois. So my children were split up. My oldest was sold, there's no other word for it, sold to the Hart family, Christine and David Hart in Des Plaines, Illinois, where she was going to Maine West High School, which is one of the most wealthy communities in Illinois and one of the top schools, so good for her, except for the fact she was being child trafficked. Then Bianca and Charlie ended up somewhere in Oswego. I still to this day have no clue who the foster care mom is. And then Tommy, now that I have the main file for the DCF whole situation, I now know that he was bounced from group home to group home. He kept getting kicked out because of behavioral issues. So meanwhile, I've got a 2-year lease on a house in Round Lake Beach on Turnbull Drive where I grew up. And a lot of people knew that I was in a house on Turnbull across the street from my teenage house where I was in high school. So we are going to start going through these emails from August of 2021. And why is that significant? That is when my younger three, Tommy, Bianca, Charlie, were dumped down here in Florida. And Again, there's no other word for that either. They were dumped. And I'm going to read this, and you tell me what you think. So this is an email from my then attorney, Thomas Hunter, attorneys at law at 421 North Huff Street, Barrington, Illinois, 60010. His partner is Orrin Grappe. So Thomas W. Hunter and Orrin Grappe. Phone number is 847-382-3666. So this is dated August 5th of 2021. And the nice thing about Thomas Hunter, even though he racked up $43,000, 43000 in attorney fees with me, and from just January to August of 2021, January to August of 2021, I have an invoice that says $43,000. And it got me absolutely nothing. The kids were ultimately dumped down here, and you're going to see this play out. So the one nice thing for that racked up $43,000 is Thomas and Orrin documented everything very meticulously. And this is how I'm going to have my nice multi-million-dollar U.S. Supreme Court case because of what they documented. So in the email, thank you for your correspondence August 3rd, 2021 at 4:20 p.m. Enclosed, you will find the following. Correspondence to Ms. Tevis with our request for in-person visitation. Okay. Miss Elizabeth Tevis was the caseworker for Camelot Care based out of Rockford, where Mary and Iris Serlick own a house. So here's the email. Okay. Dear Ms. Tevis, through a series of conversations nearing the end of June and early July with our client and our office, an agreement was reached to begin Zoom or FaceTime visitation between our client and our two younger children, Charlie and Bianca. Our client understood the agreement such that there would be 4 visits by Zoom or FaceTime with Bianca and Charlie. After the 4th visit, assuming there were no issues or complications, which there have been none, on the 5th week, our client would be able to begin in-person supervised visits with her children. As noted, the 4th weekly visit was August 3rd, 2021, and there have been no allegations of issues or misconduct by our client at any of these visits. It is important to note that the 2nd visit was in person at the PAT. So that would have been July of 2021 in downtown Chicago. And the kids, Bianca and Charlie and I, were in person together, alone in a room, playing together and talking together for about 2 hours. And then as we're being separated again, Bianca was begging me to bring her home with me. And that would have been July of 2021. And she's begging me to bring her home with me to Round Lake Beach. It is our client's understanding and belief based off of this agreement, as well as her strong desire, that she is to begin the in-person visits with Bianca and Charlie. Please confirm that beginning next week, the week of August 9th, 2021, and moving forward, weekly thereafter, Ms. Bendl's visits with the children will be in person. This is particularly important as it is our client's understanding that you intend to temporarily move the children to Florida, pending return home, as Judge Morosin indicated in court the following week. Temporarily move them to Florida. Temporarily. I know it's backwards, sorry. But these will all be scanned and you guys can see all of it for yourselves. As hard as these visits will be in person, it is important that these visits are set after work hours so that our client does not jeopardize her employment status by being required to leave her office in the middle of the day, because I was working at the time, to travel to the supervisor's parenting center or whatever other location and enjoy her parenting time with her children and return to the office. Our client respectfully requests that all in-person visits be on weekends or after regular business hours. Thank you for your cooperation and attention to this matter. We look forward to hearing from you and your confirmation of in-person visits shortly. Very truly yours, Law Office of Thomas Hunter, signed Oren Grape. Okay. That same day was a motion filed on Justin Serlick's behalf, August 5th, 2021, and this was motion to restore custody with father regarding Thomas, Charlie, and Bianca Serlick. And the stamp is August 5th, 2021. So the same day my attorney is emailing about in-person visits is the same day Justin and Mary and Ira Serlick have a motion to restore the kids to him. And let me read this to you because the wording of this is very important. Now comes the guardian ad litem. It is so incredibly easy to become a guardian ad litem, guys. It's ridiculously easy to become a guardian ad litem. They are volunteers. They don't get paid to do this. They are volunteers. Kathleen McGee, so Kathleen, Kathleen, McGee, MC, capital G-E-E, attorney for Thomas Serlick, Charlie Serlick, and Bianca Serlick, minor, pursuant to 705 ILCS 405-2-27 and same 2-28, as well as any other appropriate statute, and respectfully requests the court remove custody of these three children from DCFS and place the above referenced minors in the temporary custody of their father. Temporary custody of their father. Interesting, because usually they are state hired attorneys. Yeah. No. Especially not in Florida. GALs are not attorneys in Florida. And in support of said motion states as follows. Number one, the said minors were placed in temporary shelter on October 13th, 2020. That said minors were adjudicated neglected on December 17th of 2020. Neglected. Not abused. Neglected. Only the word neglected. Nowhere on here does it say abused. Yet, Justin, Mary, Ira, and Laura Stiles keep telling the whole world that my kids were taken from me because they were abused. No, my kids were taken from me because we were homeless during a pandemic through absolutely no fault of our own. And it's not like we were living on the streets or in our car. We were in hotels that domestic violence shelters, a safe place of Lake County, PADS of Lake County, put us in. We were seeking help to get away from the abuse. And apparently that equates to me neglecting them. I was trying to protect them from our abuser, Justin Serlick, and somehow that equated to neglecting them. But that's how the child trafficking comes into play. They pull kids from vulnerable situations where parents are financially unstable, and they pull the kids into the system, and then they get trafficked by means of people making money off of them. Everyone, the guardian ad litems, the foster parents, the caseworkers, the therapists, the judges, the attorneys. $43,000, Hunter, in 9 months, attorneys. Said minors were made wards of the court, and guardianship was given to DCFS on April 15th, 2021. Father has cooperated in the service plan. Now, let's talk about what cooperated actually means. Justin has been in Florida since July 29th of 2020. I was in Illinois during all of this part of it. I did not come down to Florida until December of 2021, and we'll get to that. So with Justin being in Florida, Illinois doesn't have jurisdiction down here with DCF. It's not like Illinois DCFS can tell Florida DCF, you need to make dad do drug screens, you need to send him for random drug screens, you need to make dad do this much parenting classes, anger management classes, etc. They do not have jurisdiction. All right, sorry about that, guys. I lost connection. Now I know how my comedians online, Meredith Masony and Tiffany Jenkins, feel when they drop their lives. That's a first for me because I'm new to this whole Facebook Live thing. All right, so father has cooperated with the service plan. He didn't have to do anything, so of course he cooperated because he couldn't be required to do anything. Father has appropriate housing. Well, father, Justin Serlick, was living with his mother and stepfather in Port Orange, Florida. So he didn't even have his own housing. I did. I had a 2-year lease in Round Lake Beach, Illinois, where all my kids and I's property actually was, in a 3-bedroom house in Round Lake Beach. My lease was from November 2020 to September of 2022. So I had a house, a single family house in my hometown for 2 full years. And at no point did I even have a housing inspection. So father has appropriate housing. Well, of course he does. He's living with his parents at 42 years old. DCFS has approved dad's residence in Florida with his parents. So there you go, with his parents, as an appropriate placement for the minors with dad. The request for ICPC has been granted by the state of Florida. Here's the problem with this, guys. There is absolutely no record of an ICPC that was granted in the state of Florida. There's none of this is in the DCFS records, the big master file I was mailed at the end of all this chaos. None of it was actually filed. So I definitely believe this to be fraudulent. And remember, Kathleen McGee, guardian ad litem, was the one that wrote this up and then presented it to the courts. Number 6, father and his parents want the minors returned home to Florida. I'm going to repeat that. Father and his parents want the minors returned home to him in Florida. The children never lived in Florida. They never went to school in Florida. They didn't know a soul in the state of Florida other than Justin's parents. And my youngest two, Bianca and Charlie, had never even met Mary and Ira before 2020. Never met them. Because in 2013, in our divorce, page 7, line 7, said that Mary and Ira Serlick were not to have direct or indirect contact with our minor children because of this type of abuse. This type of mental abuse, emotional abuse, judicial abuse. Because, guys, this isn't the first time Mary has tried to pull this shit with DCFS. She tried to pull this crap in 2012 when I was out of the country on my study abroad in Costa Rica. She literally tried to yank my kids from me when I was out of the country. So this is nothing new. But I want to make it clear. Father and his parents want the children to return home to him in Florida. So I want to make it clear. Illinois did not take my children out of my care to give to Justin, Mary, and Ira. Illinois took my children to child traffic them in the system. I am thoroughly convinced that had the kids not through this order been dragged down to Florida and dumped down here, they would still be in the system, and they probably would have been sold and adopted out by now. And when I say sold, it's actually what they're doing to kids. They're taking them and then selling them, because every single child that gets adopted out by a state, the state makes a ton of money off of that adoption. And I've recently found out they also get a kickback from the federal government. They get a kickback from the federal government if they adopt out a child that they pulled into care. How disgusting is that? So I'm going to read this one more time for the people in the back. Father and his parents want the minor children returned home to him in Florida. A home where they never lived. They were never citizens of Florida. They never went to school in the state of Florida. They never lived down here. They were visiting. Number 7, these minors are in agreement with the move to Florida and in agreement with returning to dad. Well, let's ask Bianca and Ariana how they feel about that. Because I also have a recording of Ariana stating on the record to the case managers while she was still in care, because she actually fought tooth and nail to stay in Des Plaines, Illinois with Christine and David Hart. So Ariana, if and when you watch this, number 7, the minors are in agreement with the move to Florida, in agreement with returning to dad. Number 8, it is legalized child trafficking for profit. Yes, there are thousands. Yep, absolutely. Absolutely. This is happening all over the nation, and I'm a whistleblower. Number 8, the minors previously resided with dad and his parents and are familiar with the home and the surroundings. No, we were here for a whopping 10 days. 10 days visiting while waiting out the pandemic up in Chicago because there was a housing freeze. None of us transferred our driver's license to Florida. The kids were never in school in the state of Florida. So number 8 is absolutely fraudulent and a lie. The minors previously resided with dad and his parents and are familiar with the home and surrounding areas. There is a strong bond between father and these minors. Really? Why don't you ask my son, who was thrown through a wall and told investigators that, where there's documented proof that he said that. Why don't you ask my daughter Bianca, who was yanked out of bed every morning and screamed at, because it's in the police reports. So no, there was not a strong bond between father and these minors. He was physically abusing my 2 special needs babies. These 2. They have Asperger's. Yeah, no. He was physically abusing them. That's why we were trying to break free from them in 2020, and we were seeking domestic violence shelter. You don't just randomly go to a domestic violence shelter out of the blue because you don't need help. You go to a domestic violence shelter because you have nowhere else to turn to, and it's safer to get away than it is to stay. Tell me I'm wrong. Anyone that's a domestic violence victim, tell me I'm wrong. While mom is presumably, in parentheses, not in agreement with this request, and I'm going to say this really loud for everybody, she has previously resided with dad at his parents' residence in Florida. When? And will be allowed visitation with the minors upon their return home. Number 10. And again, guys, I will scan this and put it as a Google Doc link in the video description when I'm done with this and post it on YouTube, so you can see all these documents I'm going through and read them for yourself. Hell, save them and share them across the world, because this is evidence of child trafficking and court corruption. So again, I'm going to read this. While mom presumably not in agreement with the request, she has previously resided with dad at his parents' residence. So that would be the 1048 Chelsea Way, Port Orange, Florida, 32128. And will be allowed visitation with the minors upon the return home. Will be allowed visitation. When they go to Florida, I will be allowed visitation. Here we are 4 years later. August will be 4 years since this shit happened. Number 11, Ariana Serlick, is almost 15 years old, as is in a stable placement in Illinois and thriving, and wishes to remain in DCFS guardianship at this time. It is in her best interest for her to remain in DCFS custody and guardianship. Dad, DCFS, and the minors are all in agreement with this request. Ari can continue visitation with her siblings and parents virtually. So let's get this straight. Number 7, it says minors are in agreement with the move to Florida and in agreement with returning to dad. But number 11 says that my oldest daughter, very intelligent young woman who had her whole life ahead of her as a Girl Scout national delegate, straight A honor student, perfect attendance, National Honor Society. She was in National Junior Honor Society when she was in my care. This young woman right here would rather stay with foster parents than move in with her father here in Florida. Why is that? if Justin was such a great dad, why would my oldest daughter live with people that aren't blood related to her and stay in Des Plaines, Illinois? I'll tell you why. Because Justin Serlick is an abusive human and shouldn't have a cat or dog, let alone our 4 children that he's destroying. And then the last page is the stamp. Kathleen A. McGee, address 24647 North Milwaukee Avenue, Vernon Hills, Illinois, 60061, telephone number 847-377-7814, email kmcgee@lakecountyil.gov. Okay. So that was August 5th of 2021. The hearing was that very following Monday, and we'll get to that next. But I want to share this with you very next. I have a red receipt, because I do red receipts of every single email I send. It's a CYA thing, and us in Human Resources and Payroll and Taxes that we CYA everything. So no one can ever say, I didn't get that email. Well, no, I got a red receipt. This red receipt is an automatic reply to my email titled The Serlick Children and Heather Bendl's Real Truth, dated 4/20/2022, to Kathleen McGee, kmcgee@lakecountyil.gov, effective Friday, March 18th, 2022. Kathleen McGee has resigned from her position as an assistant public defender with the Guardian Ad Litem Division. Until a replacement is identified, please address all correspondences regarding Ms. McGee's cases to Senior Supervisor Keith Grant. Mr. Grant may be reached at kgrant@lakecountyil.gov. So she destroys families and then resigns to wash her hands of it. How much money did you make from the Serlicks, Kathleen? How much money did they pay you to send my kids to Florida? Follow the money trail, everyone. Follow the money trail. All right, so now we go to August 7th. So that was filed into the court docket in Illinois on August 5th. The hearing was actually August 7th. Okay? This court document right here, this very big court document that my attorney filed, is what's going to win me, for sure, a U.S. Supreme Court case. Thomas Hunter, Oren Grappe, August 7th, 2021, in interest of Charlie Serlick, Bianca Serlick, Ariana Serlick, Thomas Serlick, DCFS versus Heather Bendl. Enclosed, you will find the following: response to motion to restore custody with the father. So a response to Kathleen McGee's motion to send the kids to Florida. And then emergency motion for leave to file discovery and continue hearing on motion to restore custody with father. Okay. So what that means is my attorney filed 2 different things, 2 different motions. And we're going to pick this motion apart. The first motion, response to motion to restore custody with the father. So this is my attorney, Thomas Hunter, responding to Kathleen McGee's motion to send my 3 youngest children to Florida, right? So here's Guardian Ad Litem, Kathleen McGee, motioning to send the kids to Florida to live with Justin, Mary, and Iris Serlick. And here's my attorney representing me, responding to that. Okay. I'm not going to pick apart all of it, but I'm going to read the lines that are most pertinent to my story. Goal legally as every state is to reunite. Yeah, as I found out in Florida. That's at another time. But yeah, Pete and I have some interesting stories on Florida reunification. So we're going to go to number 14 of this court document. It goes all the way to number 23, but we're going to start at number 14 because this is very, very important, guys. This was the $43,000 I paid. I'm finally paying off. Number 14, the minor children testified on September 29th, 2020 at the Children's Advocacy Center of Lake County of the abuse inflicted upon them by Justin Serlick. My attorney actually pulled that investigation that I told you about and read it and then added it into this motion. Number 15, Justin Serlick has an arrest record, including domestic violence and assault. He pulled Justin's criminal record, and you can see in Lake County, Illinois, Circuit 19, you can see his record of arrest and abuse since basically 2010. Number 16, it is in the best interests of the minor children that this hearing be continued until such time as Heather has been provided with discovery, including but not limited to all records regarding the Department of Children and Family Services Interstate Compact for the transfer of the children to Florida, as well as all investigations into the placement of the minor children with Mary and Iris Serlick and with Justin Serlick, as well as all police reports, notes, summaries, investigation reports, and more regarding all aspects of not only the transfer of the children to Florida, but also the goal of return home to Justin Serlick. All notes and documentation of the Department of Children and Family Services related to obtaining services for Heather, which have been delayed due to no fault of her own, as evidenced by multiple emails with caseworker Elizabeth Tevis, citing that Heather is on a wait list for multiple services. The main reason Elizabeth Tevis kept telling Judge Morosin the kids can't go back to Heather is because Heather hasn't done this service, Heather hasn't done that service, Heather hasn't completed family therapy. Well, I have no access to my kids, so how am I supposed to compare family therapy? Even Judge Morosin, exactly, intentionally. Oh, this is absolutely intentional. And as I've been talking to other families across the nation, this is happening all the time. This is a tactic that these for-profit agencies use to keep the children in the system as long as humanly possible, so they can make as much money off of them as possible, or find a chargeable offense so these parents can be criminally charged with something, and then the children will ultimately be sold and adopted out. It is absolutely intentional. It is in the best interest of the administration of justice, that this hearing be continued until such time as Heather has been provided with discovery, including but not limited to all records regarding the Department of Children and Family Services Interstate Compact for the transfer of the children to Florida, as well as investigations into placement of minor children. Kind of repetitive, but basically it's just saying that there's no due process here. You haven't charged mom with anything. You haven't given mom any evidence that she did anything wrong. So how can you possibly take the kids out of the state of Illinois and send them to Florida when there's no due process at all? So he basically elaborates on that. Number 18, Heather is entitled to due process to protect her opportunity to be heard in a meaningful manner. And then he gives, citings. Number 19, due process further requires that charges against Heather be sufficiently clear and specific to allow preparation of a defense. Due process requires a definite charge, adequate notice, and a full, fair, impartial hearing. And then he gives a bunch of citings to previous legal cases. Heather had, and this is number 20 now, Heather has a substantial risk of erroneous deprivation of her right of association with her family and may possibly be continued to be so deprived. Exactly. That's all they have to say. We have concerns. Heather's rights may be so deprived if she is not fully allowed to conduct discovery as stated above. Number 21, The risk to Heather of an erroneous deprivation of these interests in the instant matter is high, where Heather does not have access to discovery from the department or the state. Number 22, Heather will be denied the opportunity to be heard in a meaningful manner if she is denied the opportunity to conduct discovery. Number 23, Heather will be denied the opportunity to be heard in a meaningful manner if a full hearing on the instant matter is conducted on such a truncated schedule without having only 5.5 days to prepare for trial in instant manner. So basically what he's saying is, Kathleen McGee, the GAL, aka servant for the Serlick family, filed this on August 5th. So we had barely any notice to prepare for this scheduled hearing at which they were planning on dumping my kids down in Florida. Wherefore, Heather Bendl respectfully requests that the Honorable Court enter an order providing as follows. A, denying the motion to restore custody with the father and permit minor children to reside in Florida. B, grant Heather time to request discovery. C, continue the trial of this matter after allowing Heather such time to prepare for the instant matter. D, order the return of the children to the custody of Heather Bendl, me, the parent that had legal custody at this point. E, for such other and further relief as the court deems just and equitable. Okay? So that is that motion. The second part of what he filed is an emergency motion for leave to discovery and continue hearing on motion to restore custody of the father. So basically what my attorney was doing was file an emergency saying, hey, no, throw your brakes on. This is not okay. You're violating her constitutional rights. You're violating her civil rights. You're sending the children out of state when mom hasn't been actually charged with anything. You literally have not criminally charged with anything. So how can you just take the kids out of the state of Illinois and yeet them to Florida with the non-custodial parent? Non-custodial parent. I had full legal custody in Illinois family court of my children when this occurred. DCFS is not above family court. Family court is above DCFS court. So this is below my Illinois family court case that gave me full legal custody of my children. Justin only had rights to visitation. It's all about the numbers and money. Absolutely. The kids are just numbers. They are a piece of property and they're just worth $. So this was him basically filing emergency saying, nope, we got to put this to a stop. We can't send the kids to Florida like this. We need to do discovery. You need to give mom a fair trial. If you're going to take the kids away from their home state and away from mother's home state, you need to give us substantial reason to send them. What did mom do wrong to send them to the non-custodial parent, right? Makes sense? I had to have done something legally wrong, but I never did. They never charged me with anything. And my power move that was becoming a public school teacher was to actually prove this. I've known for 5 years now, or 4 years now, that I've had this ammunition. Now the whole world knows I have this ammunition. So this is literally me proving that Judge Christopher Morosin of Illinois Circuit 19 dumped my children down here illegally, violating my constitutional rights, my civil rights, my human rights as their mother, violating my children's constitutional and civil rights because they are victims of this situation. They are victims of this situation. They didn't gain anything. They've only lost the last 5 years. So Judge Morosin ignored both of these motions and signed Kathleen McGee's order, make it so, and boom, it was over with. The Zoom ended. I'm left stunned. I'm left feeling like my heart was just ripped out and stomped on. I'm left angry at the system. I'm left angry at my ex-husband because I never in a million years would ever consider doing something like this to another human, but yet he has no problem doing that to me after living with me since I was 18 years old. So we're going to get to the email chain between Elizabeth Tevis of Camelot Care and my attorney, because this gets pretty hard to read. So if I become emotional, I'm sorry, but I vividly remember reading these emails in real time in August 2021 and wanting to end my life. I wanted to end my life. I felt hopeless. I knew that I was probably never going to see my babies again because of what just transpired with this. And here I am getting these emails back and forth as a CC, seeing my attorney trying to communicate with Elizabeth Tevis, and just helpless to do anything. So this is an email from my attorney, Ormond, dated August 11th, 2021 at 5:55 p.m. Please advise, particularly, so this was the court date. So the court date was August 11th. So August 5th, let's just put a timeline here. August 5th, 2021, Kathleen McGee, guardian ad litem, motions to have the children, 3 of the 4 children, moved down to Port Orange, Florida. August 7th, my attorney files the emergency motion to file discovery, and then the motion stating that if you send the kids to Florida, you're violating mom's constitutional rights. There's evidence that Justin Serlick has been physically abusive to the children. He has a history of domestic violence. This can't happen. And then it was subsequently ignored on August 11th. So 5th, 7th, 11th, that is how quickly this played out. August 5th, August 7th, August 11th of 2021. Dear Ms. Tevis, please advise, particularly in light of court today, if Ms. Bendl will have her in-person parenting time as you previously offered after the 4 weeks of video visits, which went well. With the fact that the children will be going to Florida very shortly, Heather would like to have as much time in person as possible before they go. We appreciate your timely response. So that was at 5:55 p.m. Tevis apparently called Orrin back the next morning, August 12th, at 8 a.m. Ms. Tevis, this is a response back because attorneys and me keep everything in email documentation because it's submissible in court. And I refuse to talk to anybody on the phone for that reason. If it's in text or an email, you could submit it in court as evidence. So I do not communicate unless it's an email at this point, the last 5 years. Ms. Tevis, thank you for your call today at 8 a.m. Ms. Bendl was not requesting weekly in-person visits while the children are in Florida. She was requesting in-person visits until the children are transferred to Florida. We are also now asking that, at the very least, Ms. Bendl be given the courtesy, kindness, and dignity to see and say goodbye to her children before they are transported to Florida. Courtesy, kindness, and dignity to see and say goodbye to her children before they are transported to Florida. We do not think that this is a big ask of you and the department, and it would mean the world to Heather. We look forward to your immediate response. Miss McGee, he had the GAL CC'd, any assistance you could provide here to have the department allow Heather to see her children, at least Charlie and Bianca, before they leave for Florida would be appreciated. Thank you, Orrin Grape. My attorney is literally begging me, or begging them, to just let me hug my children and say goodbye to them. My attorney is begging this caseworker and this GAL to let me just say goodbye to my own flesh and blood. Response back. I would like to address the letter sent August 7th at 3:22 p.m. Ms. Bendl's 4th Zoom visit will be this week, as the 2nd week was not a Zoom visit but was in person. We also stated a month, in quotes, of Zoom visits and did not state weeks. I would also like to stress that we cannot transport the children to Illinois every week for an in-person visitation, and while visitation is supervised, visitation will need to continue by Zoom unless Ms. Bendl wishes to travel to Florida, which we would arrange an agency to supervise. Also, the children will already be on the way this morning, and it would have been sooner if allowed, as the children start school on Monday. So they are literally rushing my kids the moment this was signed by Christopher Morosin. They're rushing my kids down to Florida the moment it was signed. So you tell me, guys, does it sound like the Serlick family bought my children from Kathleen McGee? It certainly seems this way through the emails. So that last email was August 12th, where he's literally begging them to give me the courtesy, kindness, and dignity of saying goodbye to my children I carried in my body for 3 years, between the 4 of them. That was August 12th at 10:30 a.m. August 13th, so 1 day later, let's put this in a time frame. 1 day later, August 13th at 8:30 a.m., Elizabeth Tevis, Camelot Care Center's child welfare specialist, back to Orrin Grappe, my attorney. I apologize for not responding sooner, but as my automatic reply stated, I was out of the office. I also saw your call, but was driving with the children. The children have been placed in Florida as of this morning. Although I do not feel seeing them as a big ask, because the return home was just approved, we needed to get them to Florida ASAP. The children start school on Monday, and Dad still needs to get them into the doctors and get their medications set. This is a priority for the children, as I am sure everyone would agree. Although we spent the day and night driving, I still plan to supervise a visit either today or tomorrow for Ms. Bendl and the children via Zoom. A separate email will be sent out about that. So within 2 days of Christopher Morosin of Illinois Circuit 19 signing Kathleen McGee GAL's order to send the kids down here to Florida, they were already down here. So they literally got that signature and booked it out of Illinois immediately.
They were probably on the road.
They were probably already on the road, honestly, because all of this was via Zoom. Illinois was abusing Zoom technology, as Florida apparently does too. This needs to be federally illegal. This needs to be a federal law that Zoom should not be abused anymore post-pandemic. It was not a thing before the pandemic. It should absolutely not be a thing after the pandemic, because that's how they were able to violate my constitutional rights with the gag order. They would permanently mute me in the Zooms throughout all of this last year and a half, from 2020 to 2021, permanently mute me. My attorney barely ever spoke, or they just wouldn't allow me in the Zoom hearing at all. Just walking all over my constitutional rights like I was dead. I was basically treated like I was dead, and I just didn't exist on this planet. So, kids are already down here in Florida as of August 13th, 2021. So this next email was actually August 12th of 2021. I just want to separate. I wanted you guys to hear the email chain of just how quickly my kids ended up down here after that whole court manipulation thing. But this right here is my attorney memorializing everything that was happening. So he knew he lost the case, or sold my case, however you want to see it. We'll never know the truth. He more than likely, he was probably paid off to lose the case to Justin's attorney. Because apparently that's just a thing between family law attorneys. So I've learned down here in Florida. But this is dated to me August 12th, 2021. And this is a letter directly to me, just memorializing everything that's happened. So this is a documented chronological time frame. This correspondence is to memorialize the events of the Circuit Court of the 19th Judicial Circuit, Lake County, Illinois, Juvenile Division. Present with you and on your behalf remotely were Thomas W. Hunter and Oren Grape. Present on behalf of the people of the state of Illinois was Lisa LaBeouf, however you pronounce your name. Present on behalf of the minor children was guardian ad litem Kathleen McGee. Also present were Ariana Serlick and Tommy Serlick. Ariana's presence was only for a brief period at the beginning of the court, which was time she was granted leave to address Judge Morosin in camera, in chambers. Also present was Justin Serlick through his counsel, John Radosevich, caseworker Elizabeth Tevis, and CASA worker Megan O'Connor. The Honorable Judge Christopher Morosin presiding. I can't stand that they call themselves honorable because there's nothing honorable about what they're doing to us. The dishonorable Christopher Morosin presiding. When the case was called, a hearing was held on our motion to conduct discovery and continue the hearing regarding the return home of the minor children to Justin Serlick. After hearing argument, this motion was found to be an emergency, but was denied. Judge Morosin then indicated his intent for the matter to continue for hearing today, also telegraphing to the courtroom his intent to grant the motion of guardian ad litem. Judge Morosin was then requested that the attorneys meet in a breakout room to discuss if it is possible to reach an agreement. As you know, an agreement was reached. A 2-25 protective order was entered with the judge's assurances that he is not ending or closing the case with regard to any of the children, and the children can always be brought back to Illinois should the court see fit. The children can always be brought back to Illinois should the court see fit. Meaning, this was only supposed to be temporary. Florida was only supposed to be temporary. It was never meant to be permanent. Once the case was brought back onto the record, your concerns regarding COVID and visitation/parenting time were addressed. The court made certain recommendations regarding each of these concerns, with the judge stating that he would be accounting for in the court order before it was entered. Once we received a copy of this court order, we will send same to you. Before terminating the court call, Judge Morosin indicated in no uncertain terms and directed caseworker Elizabeth Tevis to ensure that you are immediately removed from the wait list and provided any services for which you are waitlisted. This issue was brought to the judge's attention through our pleadings that were at issue today. We believe it is a win that the judge noted the same and directed the Department of Children and Family Services accordingly. So basically, Elizabeth Tevis kept saying, well, mom's not finishing her services, therefore we can't return the children home to mom. Well, mom was waitlisted for a ton of these said services, and Judge Morosin ordered them to give me services. Well, guess what? That never happened because this states right here, the case wasn't going to close out. It did close out. December 14th of 2021, it closed out, and I lost any and all contact with my children since then. Prior to court, we had the opportunity to speak with you at approximately 8:40 a.m. and again during your lunch hour. During this time, we prepared you for your testimony and again advised you the risks of testifying. As you recall, when we were in the breakout room during court and discussing the proposed 2-25 agreed protection order, which was recommended by guardian ad litem McGee, recommended by GAL Kathleen McGee. We again discussed your options for holding a full hearing versus entering into an agreement and the risks and benefits of each. You provided us with the direction, and at your direction, we informed the court that you were in agreement with the 2-25 protective order, subject to specific additions. So I want to make it clear The only reason I agreed to those 2-25s in this hearing is because during that 8 a.m. Phone call with Thomas Hunter and Oren Grape, they told me that if I did not agree to it and I wanted them to remain on my case, I had to give them another $10,000, which I didn't have because they already drained me of almost $40,000. So I had no choice. I was forced into agreeing to the 2-25s because I knew that if I didn't have an attorney, I'd be even more screwed than I already was. But I knew that if I said no to the 2-25 orders, which are these expired orders I'll show you in a minute, the 2-25s that he's referencing, I'll show you guys. I knew that if I didn't agree to it, I'd be even more screwed because I didn't have another $10,000 to continue retaining these two attorneys. All right, so I'm going to fast forward to these 2-25s. These orders are what Justin Serlick is still trying to use to this day to keep my children from me. The first 2-25 order is for Tommy, Bianca, and Charlie, filed August 11th, 2021. So that was the date of the court hearing. This is a agreed 2-25 order protection, and it simply gives Justin, because he was never a custodial parent, I had full legal custody. So he had no legal documentation to give to the schools, give to the doctors, saying that he had any sort of, guardianship of the kids. So this is literally just to give him temporary guardianship while the DCFS case was still open. And if you notice here, there is a handwritten expired pointing to letter A. It's because he is trying to throw this weight around down here in Florida 3 years later, trying to say that this is a permanent order. No, this is them trying to manipulate the system down here and trying to lie to everybody. So I'm going to read this to you. This cause coming to be heard before the Honorable Christopher Morosin, the parties having been present and or represented by counsel, the court having jurisdiction over the matters and parties, the court being fully advised in the premises. It is ordered, A, this order shall be in effect until August 11th, 2022. So 1 year. It went into effect August 11th of 2021. It will be in effect until August 11th of 2022. 1 year. Meaning that they don't see why the DCFS case would be open after a year, but this is giving Justin temporary guardianship of the children, but it has expiration date. They purposely put that as line A, so nothing below it can be used for exactly what the Serlicks are trying to use it for down here. They are literally going around to Volusia County Schools, Mainland, Richard Milbourne Academy, Campbell Middle School, and Palm Terrace, handing these out, trying to tell the registrar's office that he has full legal custody of the kids and I have terminated rights, when the first line literally says expired. And then B, respondent father Justin Serlick shall be given temporary guardianship of the minors and shall observe the following conditions: provide all care, including medical care necessary for the children, cooperate with all reasonable requests of DCFS, family therapy, engage in mental health and medication monitoring, engage in individual therapy. 3, shall not use or abuse illegal drugs or alcohol or prescription drugs not legally prescribed to the respondent. So, I mean, Justin, if you want to say that this is still legally bound and it doesn't have an expiration date, explain the TikTok of you exposing my children to cannabis and you trying to sell drug paraphernalia where kids are exposed to it. That's you violating number 3. So if this is indeed still an active legal document, as you keep saying to everybody down here, then you're violating number 3 and violating number 1 because you're not giving them mental health services. Number 4, DCFS and substance abuse providers shall be responsible for random testing for drugs and alcohol. Basically meaning that the kids could be drug tested and Justin can be drug tested for any reasonable doubt of him not following number 3. Number 5, ensure the appropriate supervision of minor children at all times. Number 6, ensure at all times there is appropriate care plan for the minors with appropriate person who has agreed to take care of the minor. Number 7, sign all information upon request of DCFS. Basically, DCFS has access to everything. You can't hide anything from them. Number 8, make the minors available to their attorney and GAL upon reasonable requests, including unannounced visits and prior to the close of the case. Number 9, not use or allow anyone to use any corporal punishment on the minors. No spanking, hitting of any objects, including but not limited to belts, cords, sticks, fists, or hands. Number 10, notify DCFS or signs of any injury to the children or children, any bumps, bruises, cuts, scratch, etc. Hey, Justin, did you ever legally tell the kid, DCFS, when Ariana's case was still open, that Tommy attempted suicide in your care? Because according to these, for Ariana, Tommy, and Bianca and Charlie, you should have, because of number 10. But we all know you hid that from the world, that Tommy attempted suicide in your care in Daytona in 2022, right after his birthday. Number 11, ensure that the minors attend all necessary medical appointments and follow all medical instructions for the care of the children. And number 12, ensure that school-age children attend school without any unexcused absences. Ha! How many of these have you violated, Justin? 13, visitation shall be at the discretion of DCFS, and both parties shall cooperate in that regard. Meaning I should have had visitation this whole damn time. I can't even talk to my kids on the phone. So, explain that one. And then in 2023, this is specifically for Ariana Serlick, when she was dumped down here in June of 2023, June 27th of 2023. She was dragged out of her school at Maine West in Des Plaines, literally dragged. She did not want to come down here. She was dragged out of all her extracurriculars, her job she had up in Illinois, her Girl Scouts. She was dragged away from all of that and then dumped down here in Florida with Justin, even though she made it very clear to the courts that she wanted nothing to do with Justin. And I have recordings of her saying that. But just like this one, this shall be in effect until December 28th of 2023. So this has an expiration date. It was filed on June 27th of 2023, had an expiration date of December 28th of 2023. And it literally states all the exact same stuff the other one states. So this expired 12/28/2023. When I fired Mary Jane Nettles, March of 2024, and hired Rick Brown of Aaron Delgado and Associates, during my consult with Rick, he literally pointed out, well, this 2-25 order protection giving Justin guardianship of Ariana expired last year. We're now in March of 2024. Letter A says it expired in December of 2023. Where's the new court order addressing this expired one? There isn't one. So Rick Brown dropped this little bomb in my lap that I had the only legal custody of Ariana in March of 2024. Because this was only valid until December 20th of 2023 when the DCFS in Illinois case closed. And there was no Florida court orders whatsoever in place because Justin failed to do that. And so, therefore, that meant that it defaulted to my June 2013 divorce. That was the only legal and binding document protecting my minor daughter. So from 12/28/2023 to when she turned 18, September 15th of 2024, I actually had legal custody of her. Not Justin, because his guardianship of her ended December of 2023. Now, needless to say, Rick Brown dropping that bomb in my lap was a little shocking because I had attorney Mary Jane Nettles representing me since May of 2023. How the hell did she not catch this, but Rick Brown did in a 1-hour consult? That's why I'll be suing Mary Jane Nettles. That and the other thing I'm going to be suing her for. But, yeah, so I had the only legal custody of my oldest daughter, Ariana Serlick, from December 2023 to her 18th birthday in 2024. Now, I did try to explain this to her over the phone, and it became very apparent that this was all just a joke to her. And she didn't understand legalese of the situation, the legalities of the situation. Why should she? She was a minor. She was 17, being alienated and child trafficked for 4 years at that point. So, you know, it's fine that she didn't want to listen to me. I tried. I really did try to have a conversation with her about what I found out legally about this, and it was clearly just a game to the Serlicks. So whatever. But that is going to fast forward us to this year. So everybody kind of knows I've been down here in Florida since December of 2021, 4 months, 3 months, August, September, October, November. So 4 months after my kids were dumped down here, 3 of my 4 children were dumped down here. Do you have an open Florida DCFS camp? No, I don't have anything because I haven't seen or spoken to my children in 5 years now. This has been 5 years of me trying to gain access to my own children. Now, I am aware that Justin Serlick has a Florida DCF investigation going right now because Pete and I were contacted by a Florida DCF investigator recently. So we had an interview with them and shared the TikTok videos exposing Justin, showing Justin's TikTok videos exposing my kids to drugs, showed them the unexcused absences and straight Fs. But here's the thing, guys. Florida DCF does not consider education a form of neglect. That is a loophole in the Florida DCF system that I found out about when I had to take my 1-hour Florida DCF course certification to become a public school teacher. We all have to go through a 1-hour Florida DCFS certification. I keep seeing DCFS, but it's DCF down here, in order to be a public school teacher. And they make it very clear that education is not considered neglect. So the unexcused absences are not considered parental neglect. The straight Fs and 1.0 GPA are not considered parental neglect. So, yeah, Pete and I both spoke with the investigator last week. I don't know what's happening now. I haven't heard from him since. But let's fast forward to this year. So, December of last year, when Stasio Warren was my judge for my case against him, and it became very apparent after the November 2024 illegal under the table contempt order, where it was signed without anyone reviewing my financial affidavit. It was signed under the table without due process, because apparently due process is just not a terminology in courts anymore. And Serena Baldacchino, his attorney, pushed through this order and had Judge Stasio Warren sign it without even giving me an opportunity to read it or agree to it or not agree to it, to respond to it, to rebuttal to it, anything. It happened under the table without my knowledge, which is so many felonies right there. But basically, they have now ordered me to pay Justin Serlick $1,785 a month in child support for 3 children that I have 0 contact with at all. Take a pause and look at what I sent you. 1 minute, Heather. I'm almost towards the end, and I was really trying to keep this video under an hour because this is going to be on my YouTube video. Oh, geez. Anyways, information request regarding a phone call. So, it got out of order. Okay, fast forward. So I had pulled a public records request December 19th of 2024 with Mark Weinberg of Florida Circuit 7, requesting all communications between the attorneys, the judges, and anyone else that would have any play in this Florida Circuit 7 corruption. I did not get any communications from Mary Jane Nettles. That whole chunk of my case was missing, and that screamed red flags immediately. So I wrote a very stern email to Mark Weinberg stating that, something's not right. There's a red flag here. There's a big chunk of Mary Jane Nettles communications with the attorneys and Warren missing. So I had an email sent to me by Joshua Griffith, jgriffith@circuit7.org, Ms. Bendl, I hope this message finds you well. My name is Joshua Griffith. I am the General Counsel for the 7th Judicial Circuit. Our trial court administrator, Mark Weinberg, asked me to follow up with you. I wanted to take a moment to address your concerns regarding recent records requests. I know you are frustrated by the process, but I assure you that every circuit employee takes our public records responsibility seriously. As your request to public records, we did not find any additional materials using the search query you provided. However, although we were not required by the rule, using the spirit of your inquiry, we slightly expanded the search perimeters and found some additional documents which may pertain to your records request. They are provided herein. If you are looking for something specific, please let us know, but as of now, this is the balance of your request. Okay. In that email was a PDF that included this email. This is an email from my attorney, then attorney, Mary Jane Nettles, Friday, January 26, 2024 at 5:34 p.m. to Leslie Pomar, which was the previous JA Judicial Assistant to Judge Sazia Warren, CC to Serena Baldacchino of Rice Law Firm, Justin Serlick and Mary Serlick's attorney. Subject, updated information on Illinois' judge contact. I want to advise that I received a telephone call this afternoon from the Illinois judge, the Honorable Michael Nurheim, who has received the information from the clerk there from whom I spoke to get the name of the judge to whom the Illinois case is now assigned, and the contact information. Open parentheses. I am without staff on Fridays, so I answered the call myself, thinking I saw the caller ID that it was the clerk that I had spoken to earlier. Close parentheses. He wanted to provide his cell phone number to Judge Warren to make it easier for her to contact him, which is, and then of course it's redacted, his private cell phone number. Private. He and I had no discussions on the merits of the motion I filed here or on anything to do with the case. Open parentheses. I actually said to him when he identified who he was that I am pretty sure it was not appropriate for me to be having direct communications with him, to which he responded that he was just wanting to leave the information on a better way for the judge here to contact him than by going through the switchboard/number the clerk had given me. Close parentheses. He did discuss the weather, though. It is cold and dreary up there right now, he says. I just wanted to A, disclose this information, and B, provide the number he asked me to give the Judge Warren. Exclamation point, exclamation point. For those of you that don't realize how legal this is off-channel ex parte communications between different states and different jurisdictions and judges. And for the state of Florida, this specifically violates the UCC JEA law. You'll have to look it up. It is the compact laws between different states communicating with each other over cases. And in that Florida UCC JEA law, it is very clear that judges between the different states cannot communicate with each other off channel. Everything must be on the record and in the docket for documentation purposes. Must. That is Florida Supreme Court law. Okay. So this is a direct violation of Florida's Supreme Court law for regulations on the UCC JEA compact. But this is also federal violations. This is called off-channel ex parte communications. This should have been filed into my Florida docket immediately. She should have immediately called me, informed me of who called her, and I would have immediately told her, oh, Michael G. Nurheim, former state attorney. That was a state attorney in Illinois in 2020 that was in charge of the 2 investigations for child abuse and rape for Justin Serlick. I would have absolutely told her immediately who this Michael G. Nurheim was.
You would have blown a gasket. gasket.
Oh, I would have flipped out. Yeah, Pete's like, I would have blown a gasket. Absolutely. Because when I got this email on January 7th, I was on the phone with my dad immediately in Chicago. And I'm like, you are not going to believe what I just got. This corruption is beyond disgusting. So this is Michael G. Nurheim calling the shots behind the scenes down in Florida Circuit 7. And for the record, guys, Michael G. Nurheim, his name is on none of my Illinois court documents. My June 2013 family court order was signed by Judge Patricia Fix, and the April 27, 2022 court order was signed by Judge Marty Slavin. Judge Michael G. Nurheim had no signatures on any of my court documents, so why the hell he was anywhere near my family law case? I guess we'll have to ask the Serlicks that, because only they would know that. So that evidence right there, this lovely smoking gun that I've had in my hand since January 7th of 2025, triggered me to email my former attorney, Mary Jane Nettles, on January 11th of 2025. And I have yet to hear from this woman because she knows I'm hunting her down. She's under investigation with the Florida Bar, and so is my other attorney. I'm hunting these people. I'm literally hunting them because I'm going to sue them all for millions. I'm going to own multiple homes by the time I'm done with all of this. So I say to her, hello, attorney Mary Jane Nettles. I would like to schedule some time to have a conversation with you about a phone call you had with Judge Michael G. Nurheim of Lake County, Illinois, 19th Judicial Circuit Court, which you memorialized on Friday, January 26, 2024 at 5:34 p.m. That was sent to Leslie M. Pomar, former JA to Judge Stazio Warren, and CC'd to Serena Baldacchino, Justin Serlick's former attorney, from August 2023 to December 2024. Yeah, but not me. This occurred the same day you filed DIN 18 in my docket for my family, Florida family case 2023-31828 FMCI. In this email, you memorialized that Judge Nurheim, former state attorney for Lake County, Illinois until November 2020, was communicating off-channel ex parte with, while asking you to pass along his personal cell phone number to Judge Stazio Warren. You stated you wanted to A, disclose this information, and B, provide the number he asked you to give Judge Warren. As you are probably aware, this is not how these matters should be handled, as even I am aware that this is not standard law practice. So please let me know when you and I can have a conversation about what transpired during that phone call and after that phone call. Mary Jane, my children are suffering in Justin Serlick's care. I have all of their school records since August 2021 in Volusia County schools in my possession. It is very clear Justin Serlick is neglecting them. He is neglecting their education, their mental health, and more than likely their physical health. Right now, more than anything, I am a very concerned mother trying to advocate for her struggling children that need me. I know people are trying to protect themselves in this situation, as I am an educated woman as well. I'm not stupid by any means, and it is proven with the fact I knew how to pull public records requests with Mark Weinberg of Circuit 7, which is how I ultimately now have this email of yours in my possession. Right now, I'm trying to protect my children as their mother, and they need me. I've been having lunches with my youngest, Charlie, my youngest, who got me a Zoom session with exactly 1 year ago on his 7th birthday when you were my attorney. Charlie has been telling me some pretty disturbing things that has been happening in that home. Pete Arnold has met Charlie at Palm Terrace, and my son made it very clear he knows Justin is keeping them from me, and he voiced that he wants me to be in his life, and he even openly said he wants to come live with me. Everything else with this off-channel ex parte issue can wait. My children need help, Mary Jane. Please let me know when we can have this meeting to discuss this email you wrote out and memorialize so we can put my children first. Thank you, Ms. Heather Bendl. And then my contact information. So that is the end of what I'm going to discuss tonight, because this has gone a little bit longer than I wanted it to. But now you guys see a start to finish of how my children ended up down here. It is absolutely not what the Serlicks are portraying to the world, to Florida Circuit 7, and most importantly, to my children. So this video will be downloaded from Facebook and then uploaded to my YouTube page. So my children will know the truth. I will scan all of these documents I just read to all of you and then post the Google Doc link in the YouTube description of the video so you guys can see exactly what I read to you and see that it's legitimate. And these will be entered in my much larger Supreme Court case when I go after all of these people between Florida and Illinois. This is happening across our nation, guys. My story is not unique. My story is not crazy. My story is all over Facebook groups, and I'm a whistleblower to all of this insane child trafficking and court corruption. And today, with Francine Lucas's help, I now know how to write grants, and I have access to grants to help fund my nonprofit, so I can start traveling all over the U.S. and giving public speeches on raising awareness to this, and then ultimately get my butt to Capitol Hill, where I can hopefully make some real changes in our nation, because this is so many violations of our constitutional rights, our civil rights, our human rights as parents, as humans. These children are being used and abused and then spat out by these elected officials. Well, these elected officials are living in luxury homes and driving luxury cars. My children have a 1.0 GPA for 3 years now, when they were doing amazing in Illinois up until 2020, when this shit started. They were very involved in Girl Scouts. They were very involved in Boy Scouts. Greater Chicagoland, Northwest Indiana Girl Scout Council. Ariana was a national delegate for our council across our nation. She was highly respected in the Girl Scout community. My girls and my sons were involved in Cub Scouts and Boy Scouts. Tommy was almost an Eagle Scout, guys. He was almost Eagle Scout status. And now he's not even going to school. He's got an 8th grade education since he was dumped down here because of Kathleen McGee being paid off to dump him down here. And Elizabeth Tevis driving him down literally overnight since that was signed. Tomorrow night, I'm going to go live with picking apart the 11 pages that the general magistrate filed this week. And I will be filing a notice of appeal to get this in appellant court, which is exactly what I wanted and needed to happen, so I can work this up the legal food chain. Because once I get it to appellant court, it's a completely different system. It gets fresh eyes on this saga that is my last 5 years, and the corruption that is the last 5 years. It gets fresh eyes on it, and if that doesn't go anywhere, then I have the ability to then appeal it to Florida Supreme Court, which I will absolutely be doing. I pointed out the Florida Supreme Court across the street from the Tallahassee Capitol building when I turned in my candidacy for 2026 Florida legislature, for a reason, because that was my intent this whole time that I've been building this much larger case, is to get it to Supreme Court. And then ultimately, you better believe this is going to go to U.S. Supreme Court. Between the two states, it will absolutely be in U.S. Supreme Court. So this is the beginning of me fighting back this corrupt child trafficking ring that is for-profit private agencies. This is me raising awareness to all the other women and men I have networked with since November of 2024, bringing light to their stories, bringing light to their websites, their podcasts. I will post all of their information on my YouTube page as well, advertising their stories. Because I will be taking this to D.C. I will absolutely be taking this to D.C. And who knows where that will lead me. The sky is the limit with this. Maybe it'll lead me to higher up leadership in our country someday. Who knows? But have a great rest of your night, guys. I needed to get this story out in one swoop, because the only way to understand it is to see the sequential emails and court orders. So I'm sorry this was so long, but My story is 5 years in the making, and I need to start using my voice to get my children and my story out there, because they don't even know what actually happened. So when they watch this, because I know at some point they will watch this, they will now see what they were actually victims of. And they will now see how these adults that were supposed to be protecting them, that were actually using them. They are victims, and I will be seeking justice for my children. Thus, justice for the Serlick children. Have a great rest of your Friday nights, guys, and I'll go live tomorrow with that General Magistrate.